Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of Hydra Book Reading Club. And in this video I will continue with the modulation. But today, in the last two videos I explained how modulation works and you can color the modulating function and to move pixels all over the place. That was quite fun, for myself at least. And in this video, I will explore different modulate functions. So we have a family of modulate functions like modulate pixelate, modulate scale, and so on. So I will just look into Hydra book and we'll explore from there. And today I think I will just follow the book. I have diverged enough, so let's see. And yeah, nice sketch from Seb, just as a backdrop. Nothing to do with today's topic, but it does use modulate here. It's actually quite nice. And modulate scale, so it's quite nice that it covers things like this. So let's see how these, and modulate rotate, that's also another nice one. So let's see how that goes. And I'll just open Hydra book because that's kind of our resource. I wouldn't say it's a Bible. It's just my text. So the first one in the Hydra book is modulate. Well, after modulate is modulate hue. I don't know if I'm gonna explore this so much today because in the last video I explored a lot with the modulate with color, and modulate hue but basically does something similar. So if you have like a modulator function, well, we tried like our best to like color the modulator function. But basically if you have, for example, like OSC with not moving, or it can be moving slow, and 1.6 so that it becomes colorful, something like this, or maybe even 16 or something. Like this, we know it. I hope you know it. And I'll just put it into modulate hue, and because I have this shape 4, that's what is modulated, and this is modulating shape. It doesn't really matter. It's not really official terminology, but I'm just like, I would call them like this. And in here, actually what's interesting here is that compared to modulate function, the second parameter that affects the amount of modulation, we have to be quite wild with modulate hue. So even with 1 you don't really see much, maybe 3, 4, now you start to see the effect a little bit, like even with 10. So that's something like it's quite arbitrary, it's just something with modulate hue. And it's what's quite nice with modulate hue is that without, like last time I emphasized that you have to do brightness minus 0.5, but without this, modulate hue will also take negative numbers in a negative direction. So it kind of works without thinking too much. And I can also do the trick like last time. I will stop the movement and modulate this with Voronoi, let's say, and 1. So with this you can see that the movement is kind of moving into like all over the place, and I can even do the feedback. And let's see what's gonna happen. Okay, so this is the one that has to be modulated, and I would add layer shape for Luma, something like this. Yeah, so you can see something quite similar to what we had with modulate, but without the dot brightness, it does quite nice results. So maybe this is something that you might want to know. Despite the name, it's not really working with a hue. It works with colors. Yeah, it does not use hue values. It's just a combination of green, red, blue, green, and just doing some arithmetic. So you just like feed in something like colorful like this, or like OSC with 6 or whatever, 16 comma 0 or 0.1, and the third parameter is 1.6 or 1.5, something colorful, then it will work. So that's just something to know. And also something interesting, well, it's a bit nerdy, but this is the only function of the modulate family that takes the blue channel, because other ones like modulate, it always use red and green, so actually it doesn't matter what blue channel is in the modulating function. Or modulate scale like XY the same way, that I'm gonna explore or explain later, very soon. Or modulate rotate, that only takes the red channel as because rotation is just one axis. So this is the only one that takes blue channel. Okay, so that's that, and let's go to modulate scale. And modulate scale is something that is I found this very interesting. It feels like, so something I always explain as a starter is like, what if you just like modulate it with noise and just change this to scale, for example. And what's quite disappointing is that no matter what modulating function you use, like modulate, scale, modulate, it doesn't really change the quality so much. I know that image changes, but it's too subtle, and you don't really get the idea what the difference is, or like even modulate, rotate. It's okay, it's a little bit like different kind, but still like blobby, and you know, it says modulate, rotate, but you don't really get the rotation. And in the intermediate tutorial, I think I explained you should explore with like more abstract pattern. Like if it's noise, like is it 9 or 10 is the, I think 10 is the default parameter, but this is too fine grained, so like explore with like noise 2, noise 1, and now you can start to see that, oh, actually this is modulate rotating. Or if you go for like modulate scale, you can see that it's, well, this one is still not so clear, but it does feel like it's something happening towards, like gravitating towards the center, or like repelling from the center. Like it's kind of like scaling. So this is actually like a good strategy to like understand what these modulate versus, and you know, you can also try with modulate. And okay, this is, it's kind of like shaping this square shape into like different form using noise, right? So you can always, you know, try with like noise 1, noise 2, that's noise 1 also possible. These like small values, if it's OSC, then you want to OSC like, I don't know, 3 or 6. Instead of like going for like OSC 50, OSC 60, or noise 10, noise 20, then you start to like, you know, like everything becomes like a mess and you don't really get the point. So that's why like I think noise modulate scale is, well, now you can see that it's kind of like expanding and contracting with this noise 1, for example. And again, if I go back to noise 10, it's just noise. So this is like very much like a starting point to understand how this works. And I don't remember actually, modulate scale X exists, or maybe not, it doesn't exist. So if you want to like expand and shrink only in X direction, what would you do? So, and modulate scale X doesn't exist. So what we have seen is that basically modulate scale is taking the red channel and the green channel of this modulating function. So you just have to do color 1, 0, which keeps the red channel because it's multiplying with 1, so the red channel remains the same. And if you want to expand or amplify the effect, you can do like 2 or 10 or whatever. But I'll just keep it to 1 so that it doesn't get changed. And then the second parameter is the green channel. I will put 0, and it will be multiplied by 0. So it becomes, I mean, if you want to be like very verbose, you can also put this third parameter as 0, but it doesn't make actually any difference because the blue channel is discarded anyways for modulating process. So let's see what's going to happen with this. And now you can see that the top and the bottom, they are just flat, and it's not basically scaling in the y direction, but still like it's not just going like breathing like this, but it still has this kind of fine pattern. And if you want to have like more like a breathing pattern, then what you can do is basically pixelate it, and I don't remember by heart. So if I want, so now what is happening here, I can just explain to you by rendering just as it is, like this, right? So it's quite like funny thing because we just changed from 111, this is just grayscale noise, like normal noise, and we just went to like 100, for example, this is just red channel, and the effect of modulate scale changes in a geometric form. Like now we're like exploring color of noise, but then that affects the geometric form of noise, not the shape, as a result of modulation, which I found is super interesting and also very confusing because now we have to work on color in order to change the shape. And the resulting shape doesn't have to do with anything with this red or magenta color. So I know it's really confusing, but if you start to like understand how things work, it's quite interesting that you can really craft images. So for example, like I just left off the pixelate, but well, not this way. I wanted to pixelate in a way that they become like a horizontal line almost. So what if I do like something like this? What it means is that I'm pixelating like one, that's like the very wild way of pixelating. Like if you have like 10, then you can start to see these like chunks, but if it's just one, then the whole screen is just like in the X direction is the same. So you see those lines. But for the Y direction, I want to keep the value, I mean, as it is. I mean, if I want to be precise, I think what I should do is to take the height of the canvas. But I don't know, like if maybe you change the window size and so on, and you know it gets lost. So I just keep it whatever it is, like this. 1,000 may not be enough. 100 is not enough. You can start to see this actual pixelation. So whatever works for you. Like it doesn't really change the appearance so much in the end. So I'll just keep it like this. And I'll put this back into the modulate scale. And what you see is that now it's stretching the shape. It almost looks like a, I don't know, vase, or I don't know what it is, but or like a pot or whatever. But it's like stretching also in a symmetric way. That's also interesting to know. And if you don't want this to be symmetric, for example, you can also do pixelate 2. Kind of, because now, but I think now it's not symmetric anymore, is it? Or is it? I don't know. No, I think I didn't. Yeah, I think I didn't evaluate the whole thing. Alt enter to, or option enter to evaluate this chunk instead of control enter. So now you can see that, well, now it's kind of in the way. I can do control shift H to hide the code just briefly, so that in the middle point from left from right, they have different scaling factors, so it's not symmetric anymore. And it's like changing the shape like this. And if I want, okay, actually I didn't want to stretch it on the X direction, but I want it like vertically. I mean, you can rotate it from here, that's also possible. But also like just for demonstration, if I want the Y direction of like stretching, then I just have to switch from color 10 to 01. And again, the blue channel doesn't really matter. Even if you amplify this, doesn't change the result. And for the pixelate, okay, so if I just evaluate like this is actually also super cool. I think it's super nice. And you know, I actually like this kind of like failure. I mean, in a sense that you didn't expect, or like this is not what I wanted, but something that happens spontaneously. I think that's the beauty of live coding. So you should just try, or even like if you know that, okay, this is not the right way to code it, just hit Control Shift Enter and see what's gonna happen. And I love to do this. And that can lead to new inspiration, right? So I highly recommend just try it out, just like I did now. And yeah, so basically this is another version of stretching, but not in a horizontal way, but vertical way. So I'm basically trying to mimic modulate scale Y by adding this color. 0, 1 instead of 1, 0. That was for scale x. And I'm doing this pixelate to make it uniform, because if I don't do this, then it's a little bit like, okay, it's kind of like still stuck in this kind of cylinder, or I don't know, pipe or whatever. But because across this y direction, the value changes, the noise pattern changes, so the resulting scale is a little bit like quite random, not in order. I feel this is more in order in terms of like scaling. This is what you would expect from scaling. So, and of course you can, you don't have to use shape 4, you can use shape 3, or like, this is also, well, it's kind of funny. I like, I think in a funny way. What if I do this with OSC? It doesn't really make sense, because OSC is the same pattern across the vertical direction. So if I want this, I have to revert it to doing it in the x direction. And you can see, I mean, this is a little bit too much, but yeah, you get the idea. Maybe it's better if I keep the OSC maybe a bit low frequency and static. Or maybe I can even add some colors. Looks kind of nice. If you want to make the scale value a bit less, then you can introduce a second parameter, which I think default is 1. So you can add like, I don't know, 0.2, then you can see that the amplitude, or how to say, yeah, amount of scaling is like got reduced. And also they have the third parameter, which is by default it's 1. So this is like kind of baseline. Like if this input is 0, then we still have this baseline 1. So because scaling is like, scaling 0 is going to be like, shrunk completely. We don't want this. Like if we scale by 1, that's no change. So this is no change. But you can also affect that baseline if you want. So this is going to make it shrunk by default. This is maybe not so obvious. So I go back to shape 4. And you can see that it's quite shrunk. And actually, this is affecting both x and y. So now it's like all shrunk. And now if you want actually only in the x direction, then you have to like tweak it somehow. Maybe easier way is just add scale afterwards. But I hope you get the idea. So something like this, like now it's 0.2, so it's kind of more humble. If you do 2, then it's more drastic. But by default, it's 1. And again, you can achieve the same thing with changing the color instead. And now this is kind of getting confusing, right? Because now we're talking about changing the amount of scaling by changing the color of the modulating function. So I know it's like, doesn't make sense, but it works that way. So when you're modulating, you actually work with a color to affect the geometry. And that's really about modulation. So basically, this is like illustrating like same thing, but using OSC as a modulator to scale another OSC. Kaleido, no, this is just another thing. That's just, I think, not modulate Kaleid, but Kaleido function to this one to make some kind of breathing kind of ripples. Yeah, and you can do more with, combine these techniques with other geometric or repeat functions, for example. This is repeat, right? Yeah, this is repeat. So you can, of course, combine these techniques. And this, I just explained how modulateScale works on a shape. And yeah, I didn't say that you should use, well, you should also use noise too, and then maybe it's more obvious. But the other way to do it is to pixelate the modulator. So that's something also quite interesting. So now I'm actually already doing it, but let's say, what if I do like 4, 4, and suddenly it becomes very geometric, and I think it's quite interesting. And if I take this color out, yeah, so basically this is the same example, almost the same example as this. Well, I did 2 by 2, but is this something useful? That's a good question. I mean, I sometimes ask this question. This looks really simple, and I sometimes even do this like pixelate 1, 1, which means that it's just like single pixel on the canvas, so it's just same color uniformly. But actually this becomes quite interesting because now we're saying that we're using this noise value to scale the shape. What does that mean? So basically I'm doing something very similar to like scale, and if you use like these arrow functions, we cannot do noise because noise is a texture, not the value. But for example, if you're using P5.js, you can use this noise function. I don't use P5.js here, so I can't run this. But if you have P5.js instance or something like this, I don't know. What it depends on how you instantiate P5.js, but something like this, basically, I can do something like this by using a little bit more verbose, but modulateScale and using noise as a scaling factor, and using pixelate11 to have just single scaling factor. And what I really like about this is that you can really kind of change, like tweak from here. For example, like, because in the other example of like using scale with arrow function, you cannot change this scaling factor across the space. But from here, you can change, like, for example, I actually want like vertically, like different scaling. So now it's split and upper part and bottom part are scaled in a different way. Or I can go like even more like finer, something like this. And then now I think I can do the same trick as like the last one, color. Just, no, actually I want this to be this way so that it's only stretching or shrinking in an X direction. What if I do this? Okay, it doesn't really make sense. But anyways, so you get the idea, and then what if I do this? Then it becomes like more like kind of this geometric pattern, which is also quite interesting. Like, you might want this, right? So, and it's not something like easily achievable with other functions. I mean, it may look a little bit like noise, 10, pixelate, 10, 10, and luma, or like thresh maybe. It's a bit similar, but what I really like about the former one, I mean, it's a different one, right? So this has its own like thing, and I think it's useful in some ways, and I can really see that I want this one specifically for some use cases. But if you go for this one, then it has like interesting transition that is like kind of going like almost like breathing. And yeah, like it really depends on like what you want to achieve, and there's no like, right or wrong. And that's the beauty of like live coding and creating images or creating sound with other tools. So just explore and feel free to like change numbers and see what's going to happen. So that's modulateScale. And yeah, so this is another thing that I found super interesting, that basically you can do kind of repetition. So this is modulate repeat, I think. But also, if you have, how do I do this? Okay, so maybe I'll just, maybe I don't have to do the same thing. Like I can do like shape with, let's start it over, but I'll keep the last one. So if I have repeat 1, 1, or it can be like 2, 2, let's say. I have this, that I want to make like a grid, and I'll add this modulateScale here. I'll just merge them. And what happens is that it's a little bit too chaotic now, right? But now if I start to tweak these parameters, scaling, okay, maybe I change this baseline part, or maybe, no, actually I can start to see this fine-grained patterns here and there as well. So maybe I should just like repeat more. And you can see that because now it has like a kind of fast movement, I can slow it down. And you can see that some parts have like this fine dots, and some are like more like magnified. And maybe I can change the scaling factor here to make it a bit more like enhanced. So some parts have like really a lot of dots, well, concentrated dots, and some are like more like sparse. So this kind of thing you can really make the combination of like repeat and modulate scale. You can start to make interesting patterns that are like a bit look like more like processing P5.js kind of thing, but made with Hydra. And something definitely it's like different from how you would think how you code in P5.js or processing. So it gives like, like different way of thinking. And I think that's super interesting. That will definitely end up with different visuals, different code, well, definitely different code. And that's, to me, I think it's just, is it like useful or not? I don't know, but it's like really stimulating. And if you go back to, for example, P5.js, and then you might do something that you learned from Hydra, or vice versa. Like if you try to recreate this, what happens, in P5.js, and then you might want to do some work to bring some of this code or like ideas from P5.js to implement in Hydra. So who knows? And of course, you can also literally combine these, two different tools on the same editor. So that's exciting. I only talked about modulateScale and modulateHue. I will probably go to modulatePixelate and modulateRotate, which is not in Hydra book, but I can explain. So these things I will talk in the next video. And just for fun, I will just do shape 99, so they're like more like a dots than squares. Although if they're shrunk, they look like more like squares, but who cares? And you can, also, of course, you can add colors and so on, and you can really like go wild with that. But you get the point that, for example, this combination of repeat and modulate scale making something very geometric. And again, we're just like working with, well, this here, we didn't use colors. What if I actually add color here? Would that be interesting or not? This is something. I never tried this, and it's something very, it has something. I didn't expect this, but it looks like some kind of, I don't know, like it's not like Morse code, but something very much like, yeah, something like a text, but kind of obfuscated version of like font or text. I read about this A typography, but maybe it's something like this. Anyways, this is really cryptic, but I think it's really interesting. This one I think is nicer with shape 4. Yeah. All right, so I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you liked it, please hit the like button, and I will see you in the next video. And in the meantime, if you have created interesting things, please share down below or post it in Hydra community so others can see it, and let's activate. Well, it's very active, but I hope you will contribute in different ways to the Hydra community. So thank you for watching, and see you in the next video. Bye.